welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records like a big nerd and talk about why I love them. This week, my friends, my folk, my viewers, this week is a very vinyl birthday. That's right, Vinyl Friday is 2 years old this week. In celebration, I thought we'd do something a little bit different this week. I've asked each of the correspondents to tell us about an album that they would bring with them if they were to be stranded on a deserted island. Let's begin. Who's first? Hello everyone, piano correspondent here. I found this album right at the point in my university studies where I really felt like I'd started to hit my stride, and I understood what it was that I was doing there. I was confident, I was independent, I was having a good time. It was the perfect time to have discovered Court and Spark by Joni Mitchell. There are many reasons that I love this album. Here are just a few. The album feels like autumn. Every time I listen to it, it sounds like I'm in the middle of autumn, and that's a good feeling. Autumn is my favorite season. Her lyric work is exceptional. It's always good, but her character sketches on this album are some of my favorites. It's an album of balance and transition. It rests on the precipice between experimentation and accessibility. And it's also bridging a moment in her career between introspective singer-songwriter pop to jazz fusion. Introspective singer-songwriter jazz fusion, but jazz fusion nonetheless. The last point I'd like to mention is that I think that this album, and maybe the next one, maybe even the next one after that, represent Joni at her peak smoker's rasp. Earlier in her career, I find that her voice can be a little bit shrill at times. Later in her career, it's all husk. But at this point in her career, there's a sort of depth and maturity to the rasp in her voice. I want to be clear, I in no way endorse the consumption of anything produced by a tobacco company, but she does sound bloody good on this album, you have to admit. Here are some of my favorite moments on the album.
Seemed like he read my mind. Didn't it feel good? Laughing it all away. Fast tires come screaming around.
Thank you, piano correspondent. An excellent choice. We're gonna cross now to the bass and guitar correspondents for their choices. Hey everyone, I'm the guitar correspondent, and I'm the bass correspondent. Is it cool if I go first? Yeah, alright, thanks. The album that I have chosen for my Desert Island disc is this. Pretzel Logic by Steely Dan. I've chosen this one for two reasons. The first is that this feels like the album of a band that has just hit its stride. They put out a couple of albums, they've been feeling things out. This is the album where they really nail it. They aren't necessarily Steely Dan's most impressive songs, but there are no duds. In this album, you can really hear the potential for them to become something truly spectacular. The second reason is that this is an album I was listening to a lot of the first time I fell in love. Ooh. Shh. And when I listen to this album, it just transports me right back to being 16 years old. And that was an especially magical time in my life because I didn't feel like I had lost my sense of innocence and trust in the world and wonder. I think when that whole thing fell apart, it really shifted something in me. And as an adult, I don't think that's something you can ever recover. But this album captures that, so I can always go back and visit it. So this album is incredibly precious to me. And here are some of the highlights.
When the Joker tried to tell me I could cut it in the swoop down, in the morning it won't be there no more. But I plan to find the time. Yes, I do. Charlie Freak had but one thing.
Okay, now it's your turn. The album that I have chosen for my Desert Island disc is Crosby, Stills and Nash's 1969 debut album, Kissin'. Crosby, Stills and Nash. We did an episode on this album over a year ago and I told this story, but I will tell it again. Hell, it is our channel, we do what we want. When I was about 12 years old, I heard this song on the oldies station, but it was only like the last minute, and it had no lyrics, it was just do-do-do-do-do's. We were in the car, so I couldn't stop and look it up, and I had to make sure I remembered the melody, so I sang it over and over and over in my head, until I was able to make my way to a payphone. Yeah, and called the radio station with a quarter and asked them what the song had been. They didn't know, it was on some sort of like automated playlist. So I spent the next, I don't know how many weeks singing this do-do-do-do-do part to any adult who I imagined might have been around in the 60s and might recognize this song, until finally someone said, "Oh, that's the outro to Sweet Judy Blue Eyes." I was able to persuade my relenting parents to take me to Amoeba Records in Berkeley, California, where I was able to buy a copy of Crosby, Stills and Nash's Greatest Hits. Track 1 was Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. I listened to it for 6.5 minutes and went, damn it, this is not the right song. And then boom, that outro hits. And that was it. So I really enjoy the memory of having to search for this song and really hunt it down for weeks and weeks and weeks, because it felt very gratifying when I did finally find it. Not only did I locate the song, I learned that this is an album of resplendent songwriting, stellar harmonies, not a bad song in this whole record, much like Pretzel Logic. The other reason that I've chosen this record is that it proved incredibly influential in my songwriting practice. I love a suite, and I've written several that I think probably harken back to Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. My band is based around harmony singing, which clearly was influenced by these guys.
Don't have a forward mailing address unless.
And every time I listen to this record, I feel inspired to write something. It just has this magical power. Anyway, here are some highlights.
You don't have to cry. How about you get wrong, baby, if the feeling's wrong?
Great work, team. I approve of both of those choices. We go now to Editor Nancy. Hey everyone, Editor Nancy here. My Desert Island disc choice is none other than Bachata Rosa by Juan Luis Guerra. I've chosen this album because it is one of the earliest that I recall hearing in my life. This came out when I was still very, very young, but it was played around the house and it was beloved by my mother. Consequently, it is now beloved by me. The songwriting is excellent. It's a masterclass in horn arrangement. It is richly emotional, and it's probably the only album on the list. I haven't conferred with the other correspondents, but I think it's a fair assumption that their picks may not have a whole lot of love songs. This one is unashamedly an album of love songs. Also sex songs, but mostly love songs. From the moment the needle drops on track 1, this album feels like a party. It is so joyous, except for that last track. If you know, you know. It's also a reminder of my ethnic heritage. I'm half Dominican. This good guy here is also Dominican, so you know, it's a nice reminder of where I've come from. And also, obviously, the music's excellent. Can't go wrong. Here's some highlights. That album is so much fun. And last but not least, we're closing with the Storytime correspondent. The last Desert Island disc. You didn't think I was going to get all the way to the end without mentioning the Beatles. This album, not the specific copy, but this album was the first Beatles album that I owned, that was mine. It was copied on tape for me, so it wasn't a brand new cassette tape, but nevertheless, it was mine. This would have been when I was around 5 years old. And truth be told, I was a little bit young for the album at the time, but it was right there waiting for me when I was the right age to really appreciate what was going on with this album. I've chosen this album because it is an album that tells a story. It's a story that begins at the end, but reflects on everything that has come before. It's a reminder of where the band has come from and where they will soon end up. So to me, if I was on a desert island and I had this album, every time I listened to it, it would tell me the full story of this band. And while this album sounds distinct from all of their other albums, there are echoes of everything that they achieved throughout their career. There's good old-fashioned rock and roll and tracks like Oh Darling.
Please believe me.
And you can hear the spirit of experimentation that typifies their mid-career material in moments of the album, like the bridge between You Never Give Me Your Money and Sun King, which features tape loops. And then on tracks like The End,
And in the end, the love you take.
you hear a band that is coming together, no pun intended, to celebrate what has been and to give it an honest and loving farewell. This is an album that tells a story. If I have this, I have all the Beatles records. So yeah, Abbey Road, Desert Island Disc 5. And I would give you highlights, but let's be honest, it's the whole damn album. Just go listen to the whole album. It's fantastic. I promise you won't be disappointed unless you're one of those really fun people who like to come into the comments and complain about how awful the Beatles are. I'm sure everyone's really impressed by you. The rest of us, those of us who have taste and working brains, you won't be disappointed. Thank you so much to everybody who has been with us on this journey, be you recent or there from the very embarrassing earliest episodes, which were filmed in potato quality on my cell phone, which was really struggling to keep up with the workload. Welcome back to Vinyl Friday. Side note, I was so excited about Vinyl Friday that I forgot to explain what it is. It's where I go full nerd on my record collection in alphabetical order and explain to you what it is that I like most about each of the albums. I really appreciate you doing this with me. It continues to be so much fun, and I look forward to what the next year will bring.
Hello Vinyl Friday fam, this is Editor Nancy coming to you live from outside. Just a couple of pieces of housekeeping. The first is that the mystery holiday cover will be out next week, so thank you so much to everybody who has cast their guesses. As of right now, there has been one correct guess, so well done to that person. You'll find out in a week whether or not you were right. The second thing is that at the beginning of the year, my dad made a prediction that I would hit 8,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And as at the time of this recording, I am at 7,143 subscribers. So I'm not going to tell you to like and subscribe because I'm sure you know how to do that from all of the other YouTube videos that you watch, YouTube connoisseur that you are. But if you had forgotten or were putting it off, or whatever valid reason you might have to not subscribe, but you decided that you wanted to do so now, my father would get a huge kick out of it. So I'll just leave that with you. Do as you please. I respect your decision either way.
And that's it from us. If you enjoyed this episode or you would like to support any of the weird things that we do, I'll leave a link in the description to our Buy Me a Coffee page where you are most welcome to make a donation, but no pressure, friends. If you're curious about what any of our original music sounds like, I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. Otherwise, that's it from us. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend!